Hold on. We're live. Go ahead, Tori.
Good evening, everybody. This is Tori DeBlasi with Louis Lee and Jon Vezzosi from PSI Conversions. He's our special guest tonight on this edition of Playing in Traffic. Jon, take it away, and please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, I'm Jon Vezzosi. I'm a co-owner of Performance Systems Integration in Brick, New Jersey. We're a wiring harness manufacturer. Been in business about 11 years. Glad to be here, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
I got a question right off the bat. How many headaches have you had learning this wiring?
Actually, over 11 years, when we started, it was my partner and I answered pretty much all the tech calls and all the sales calls along with him. But it's very, you got to be very understanding and understand that your customers are, they're coming to you not just for a product, but they're coming to you for some service and some knowledge. And, people can ask you the same question 50 different ways, and you have to understand how to work towards what the solution is. Mm-hmm. It's not really a headache. It's more of, it's really good to educate the customer. That's for sure.
Right. Well, I learned to let the professionals deal with it because I redid my motorcycle and it's an 87. So I took all the wire, everything out. I had it hanging on the wall. I'm like, oh, it'd be easy to get back in. Well, the same wiring harness is in a box now, so I had to redo the whole bike. I wired everything, so everything's fresh. So now I know what I'm looking at because I put it in.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the whole thing. I'll tell you something. I just got a harness from PSI for the 55 Chevy, and I'm telling you, I was like a kid at Christmas. I laid it all out on the countertop in the kitchen, and all the stuff, was pretty much self-explanatory. Everything, went in the car just perfectly. What can you say? It's a factory, quality harness, and it's allowing me to put the 6-liter supercharged engine in with a 4L80, which didn't come that way from the factory. So the techs over there, they're very knowledgeable. They know their craft. They know exactly what I needed. Answered all my questions. They explained why they chose the harness they chose for me. And their level of customer service is second to none. So that's what I like to do. I love to get, companies on the show that really put, that are head and shoulders above the rest. You know what I'm saying? So, PSI is definitely one of them. So
yeah, I appreciate that, and we really do pride ourselves on customer service, and like I said earlier, the value to the customer. We offer slightly over 100 different end item harness part numbers for LS swaps. So for instance, is you're mentioning the 6-liter with the 4L80. It could be any type of Frankenstein combination you can think of. We have a harness that's going to be plug and play for it. And, we ship within, usually within 1 or 2 days, which is, pretty much testament to our team and our manufacturing processes.
Nice.
I got my harness in 2 days.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was a kid at Christmas.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's our goal, is always to get it out. You don't want to be sitting around waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks for anything for that matter.
I'll tell you one thing. The toughest part about wiring the car up was finding the location on the firewall, where to put the hole. For you, I'm serious. You just laid it all out. It just kind of wired itself. It was really good.
Yeah, that was something when we originally developed, the first harness. Part of the reason we got into the market is, at the time there's really just rework, and I said, why don't we make it longer and put everything up underneath the dash, because it just makes it a cleaner install. If nobody can see the harness, that's a good thing. Right. And that's kind of one of that's how we've designed it and developed it.
Yeah. So what started you in this industry?
Wow, that's a good question. So I've always been a car guy. I went to school for mechanical engineering. I met my partner in college. We both degree mechanical engineers, and we ended up getting a job together about a few years after school. And we both worked in aerospace, and we basically just said, we wanted, we were always hot rodders, and we wanted to start something. And I had done a bunch of swaps up until that point. That's right around the 07, 08 time frame. So I'd done a bunch of swaps on the old LT1 engines, and I'd done a DFI. I'd done a DFI car for a buddy of mine as well. And what we ended up doing is we started sourcing connectors, sourcing parts, just like we did in our day jobs, for in the aerospace industry. Made some prints and took it from there. I mean, we started very small. It was out of a Rubbermaid in my garage, and then and worked our way up to where we are now.
That's awesome. What was the car that was the template for the first swap harness?
Well, the first swap I ever did was a 70 Camaro. A buddy of mine owns, good buddy of mine, and he had an LT1. He had a 94 LT1 with a 4L60 in it, and we basically did a harness rework for that one. And then we moved on to I had an El Camino. I have a 64 Biscayne. These were all ones I just did in my garage, just doing rework on my own. And then essentially what we did is we just kind of took the average of a bunch of those cars, and we figured out what our lengths. I mean, really the hard part was the trunk length. How long did you want it to be to get it up under the dash without it being too long? You didn't want to give people, a ton of wire that they were going to have to find some place to put underneath the dash. But you didn't want it to be too short where everything was going to be, pulled and stretched, and it was going to be stuck under the hood where it didn't look very good. So we played around with some of the lengths, especially the trunk length, where we put the fuse block, things like that, our under dash wiring for your gauges and all that stuff. And then really that's how we started. We started with the LT1s. We started with 2 part numbers, and now we're like I said, we're well over 100 combinations, any combination you can think of Gen 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm
going to get to that in a second, but first I want to introduce you to Lou Santiago. Lou, this is John from PSI.
How you doing,
and John, I'm sure you know who Lou Santiago is.
Listening, don't worry. When you're done, I can talk. Just keep going, John, because I'm interested in what he's saying.
Sure.
John, carry on then.
I mean, it's funny because before we got into, like, when we started the business, and I'd done all these swaps, again, just for friends of mine or myself. When my future partner, he approached me and he said, what's something on these swaps you had trouble finding, and the first thing that came to mind was a brake switch. In a lot of cases with these 4L60Es, with these torque converter clutch lockups, you need the brake switch, the torque converter clutch lockup has to function correctly from the brake switch. So one of the issues I had was finding a brake switch that worked and a pigtail that could plug into it, so I didn't have to hack apart my chassis harness. So I had found that, and he said, well, why don't we kit one of those and put it on eBay? And sure enough, we created a part number. We threw it on eBay. I had a pigtail, I had a brake switch, and I sold the first one. We sold the first one in 2 days, and then we put another one on eBay and sold that one, and then sold another one and another one, and then it morphed. I mean, it went from there. We're like, let's do pigtails, and then it was, let's do full up harnesses. We didn't have any money. We didn't have a lot of money or capital behind us to sit there and get a bunch of tooling and all these boards and all this other stuff. I mean, we had to start small, and it was good because sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for, and when you try to grow too big too quick, you lose sight of really what's grown you to, or what the model really is of your business. And ours has always been customer service. I mean, like I said earlier, it's all about pre-sales and after-sales support. And when somebody has a question, we're all hot rodders. We buy something, 2 years later we put it in, and it's like, hey, do you remember me? Can you help me out? And we have no problem doing that. I mean, we get calls all the time from people 3-4 years ago. Hey, I put it in another car, or hey, I never hooked this up. What's this for? How do I do it? Or what have you. And we're always there to support people.
I got to tell you, Jeremy was awesome, by the way. He took me step by step through what I needed. right down to what kind of pedal do you want. So I chose the Corvette pedal because of the aesthetics. It just looked better. But I mean, the attention to detail, I was blown away. I was so impressed.
Yeah, he's excellent. I mean, really, as I said before, it's like it's a testament to the entire team. I mean, from our salespeople to our tech support to our production people, even our suppliers. I mean, we do part of the reason why we can ship something, a harness custom made within a day or two, is because of our manufacturing processes and our suppliers being on board with what all the components that go into all of this stuff.
I have a quick question about the now I don't want you to give up any trade secrets or anything like that.
Yeah.
But do you use like OEM connectors on the harnesses when you can, or are they
No,
custom
always.
made for your application?
No, so always. So everything we do it's GXL, TXL wire, which is high temp cross-linked polyethylene wire. So it's automotive grade, same stuff GM would use. All the connectors are Delphi, or if GM used a Coastal or a Tyco connector or something like that, we would use that. And then we all the crimps, everything is done to factory specs. And if we have a splice, it's going to be sonic welded. There's no soldering inside this. There's no it's not hacked together. And I'll give you a little story real quick. So the first swap you could call it I ever did was an aftermarket fuel injection system. This is going back into 1999, 2000. And it was for my buddy's 70 Camaro with an LT1. And I won't say whose it was, it doesn't matter. And we ran into all types of gremlins trying to get this thing to run right. And we didn't have a big cam. I think we had an LT4 cam in it. I mean, there was nothing crazy about it. So at one point something funky was happening. We start tearing into the harness, and I found a glob of solder on like 4 wires. And I was shocked, just because it was a big name company. And I'm like, I was just absolutely shocked that came out of a company like that. And we ended up contacting them. They were supportive. They took it back. And at that point, he had kind of lost faith in the aftermarket fuel injection. That's when we did my first harness rework, and we put an LT1 rework harness in that. But
Yeah,
it was
well,
just go ahead.
That's really common though, John. Not just with your stuff, with you finding out somebody did something like that. It's really common throughout the industry. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I run into that all the time doing chassis work. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you would think that stuff would be a little bit more dialed in.
Yeah.
That's what always blows me away. I mean, here you are, you're an independent guy doing this, helping your friend, and next thing you know, you're building a whole harness.
Yeah.
And realistically, it shouldn't come down to that. I mean, when you stop and think about it, the whole point of spending the money to get the harness from another company that supposedly knows what they're doing, to have that happen, I can never wrap my head around that, man. I can never wrap my head around that.
Hey, Lou, tell a story about the guy's interior that you're telling me they used up.
Well, which one? I mean, there's a few of them. That's the bad part.
Where the guy used paneling from the 70s?
Oh, yeah. So there's some, there's a bunch of different interior guys. And this is a guy who is well known. I mean, does Riddler cars, Amber car. He's doing top shelf stuff. And he's making door panels out of old brown paneling, like you'd see from the 70s in your basement. It's, and this guy's getting 20, 30, 40 G's to do an interior. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You can go to the store and buy ABS plastic, and the people who sell interior stuff, all the materials sell ABS plastic. So why can't you buy that? It's just nuts, man. It's
40
nuts.
grand. I'll rip all the paneling down at my house right after the show.
He's wrapping it in leather, Tori. But underneath,
like your rat guy. He's on the screen. It's right there.
Crazy. But it's amazing that's what you see, and it was another guy who did interiors, and the owner of the car is telling him, look, I'd like to get this, I'd like this, I'd like the AC vents here. He got the car back, and he spent an ass load of money, and everything was not what he wanted.
Yeah, it was a learning
It just
experience
blows
for
me away.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big learning experience for me to
Yeah.
see that. And, fast forward, 8, 9 years later, it was something, it taught me a lesson. It's, quality is, we're trying to give people the best value. I mean, we want to give them the pre-sale support, post-sale support. And if they have questions, comments, concerns, we're going to sit there and listen, and we're going to stand behind our product 100%.
Which is awesome. That's so
Right.
awesome. You have no idea how awesome that is for some, to say that, to hear that someone's saying that. Because believe me, I run into a lot of stuff, and it's just not. They're not interested in helping it. They're not interested in. Okay, it's a mistake. Okay, well, what are you gonna do to make it right? Well, it's not our problem. You bought it. It's like buying a set of red line tires from somebody, and you mount them and you can't balance them, and you find out that it's in the tire, and they say, well, you mounted them. It's not our problem anymore.
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Or you get a bent rim or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. How do you know till you try and get it fixed?
Yeah.
It's so wrong. It's just so wrong. Yeah. I don't know.
Now, do you do harnesses for oddball cars, or do you just have a certain set of cars you work on?
No, so we're strictly GM, and the nice thing about our products, all 100 end item part numbers, those harnesses, is they're engine trans specific. They're not chassis specific. So if you have if you have a 72 Chevelle with an LS3 and a 6-speed automatic, and then you have a 944 with it's not a good example because it's a rear transmission, but you have a Vega or something like that, or you have an OBS truck. It's going to be the same harness, assuming the engine and trans are the same. So that was part of, that was a deliberate action when we started, after we moved on from the LT1s, because there wasn't a lot of modification to the LT1 stuff. People either had a 4L60 or they had a manual trans.
Right.
There wasn't a big deal. But once you got into the LS stuff, where people started Frankensteining everything, where they wanted these heads, this intake, this mass air, this throttle body, this pedal, this trans, that's where our processes really came into play, because we were able to meet that market demand no matter what people were trying to do. Now, you got to be careful, because there's a lot of, we've made a lot of stuff fail intentionally during R&D, because you get a lot of people that are like, well, I got my buddy Jimmy's got a throttle body. Tim over here has a pedal. I have this mass air, this alternator. I want it to work. Well, I didn't design. GM designed it. I'm just telling you what will work or won't work. And in some cases, we can go into the tune, we can modify the tune, and get it to work. However, there are cases where stuff just isn't going to work. It doesn't want to talk to each other.
Right. Right.
GM, there's Chevy, there's Chevy trucks, there's Corvette, there's Cadillac, and then there's vans. It's like 5, 6 different groups doing the exact same thing 5 or 6 different ways.
Well, that's where I was going to jump in.
I
was going to ask about the Cadillac. I got a 77 coupe.
Okay.
Probably is going to need a new harness, because it's been sitting for a while.
And again, whatever engine and trans you have, we're going to be able to accommodate it. And it's going to be plug and play. You're not going to get it and say, oh, now I got to go spend another $100 on a mass airflow sensor, because PSI wouldn't change a $2 connector.
Right.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right.
I get it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So we're accommodating you, and we go through that process with you when you order, or if you go on our website. As you go through the website, there's going to be pull downs asking you, what alternator do you have? What mass air do you have? What pedal do you have? What this do you have? That do you have?
That's all.
And that way you're going to get a true plug and play harness.
That's pretty slick.
And nobody's doing that, are they? You're the only one doing that.
I'm not going to say I'm the only one doing it. There's I'm sure there's competition out there where they're, now do they have it? Are they shipping it within a day?
Probably no.
I doubt it.
No.
I doubt it. But I'm not going to say I'm the only one that's out there customizing for people, because I'm sure there are. But our key, our market, our position in the market is the company that can provide that to you within a day or two, so you're up and running. As we say, wired up and fired up.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Now, Cam wants to know: are you doing a Gen 5 LT1 harness with the fuel control harness?
Yep, we have Gen 5 harnesses for manual transmission and 6-speed automatic right now. We're currently working on the 8-speed and the 10-speed automatic.
Awesome. Now, I'm going way back here. We're breaking out the way back time machine.
Sure.
You know, I'm still a carburetor guy, and I told a bunch of my friends I'm not getting rid of my small block stuff till I, use it all, because I've got rotating assemblies. And I said I wanted a tune port, and within a weekend I had 4 tune port setups. And I know they're batch fire. Is there something I can do to make them where they individually fire?
I mean, there's companies out there. I know for a fact there's a company out there that will make something for your TPI setup.
Okay.
And
cool.
I mean, that's we get calls for TPI stuff.
Way back.
I mean, I still remember when I was I was 16. I mean, I guess the LT1s were out, but I couldn't afford those. But I looked at TPI stuff and I'm like, wow, I wish Arizona Speed and Marine was like the that was the company back then.
They were shit back in the day.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wish I had more than $100.
Yeah. But see, I never made the jump because I was, I've always done well with carburetors. I've got my square body Suburban gets 22 to the gallon, and it's an 82 square body. You know what I mean, with a carburetor. So I never felt the need to go fuel injection, but I want to make the jump now, but I'm not going to get rid of the stuff I have because you can't even give it away. You know what I mean? Nobody wants a small block Chevy, so I'm going to build what I have, put it in my stuff. I don't race it; I just drive it. So I might as well get the stuff for it. But I need to get hooked up with somebody who can show me how to tweak it, and the more I can learn on it, the easier it's going to make me to make the transition when I do the LS thing. You know what I mean? It's just going to be easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might get a little more frustrated with the TPI stuff because you have a distributor. The LS. I mean, that's one of the keys to an LS is there's no more distributor.
Right.
I mean, the cylinder heads are excellent, and everything about it is, excellent. But
I got you.
They took the best of everything. They took part of a Ford, they took part of a GM, and they took part of a Chrysler, and they made the LS motor. It is a great motor, but getting rid of the distributor was the key. That's why the LT1, the original LT1, was so difficult to,
because
it lived a short life.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and I never thought it would be the distributor. You know what I mean?
If you ever looked at an OptiSpark, which was the distributor on an LT1, it was it looked like a Rolex watch inside. Yeah, and it was right under the water pump.
Yeah, I never got that one. I never understood that one.
That'll never fail.
Sure was. They just needed it to fit in under the hood.
Yeah.
What's that?
They just needed it to fit under the hood.
Yeah.
That's funny though. Hell, I'll use them and then I'll make the jump. It'll be quick, fast, and in a hurry. If I have to, I'll put carburetors on them. I don't care. I'll get it done.
I got fuel injection. Don't worry, I got you covered, Lowell.
Yeah, see, Vince crank triggers work every time. I mean, I just can't throw the damn parts out, man. I can't because I worked so hard for all the stuff and now it's useless.
Yeah, it's true.
And then doing the show, we're just dropping brand new LT4s, and she's like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
Do you have any plans on doing some like the Coyotes and all that? I mean, do you have any plans for that?
That's a great question because somebody asked me that the other day. So when it comes to the Ford and the Chrysler stuff, we have only a finite amount of engineering resources and things like that from an R&D standpoint. So obviously we're going after we go after the biggest markets. One of the issues is I don't have a lot of experience with Fords because I've been a GM guy my whole life. I don't have a lot of experience with Chryslers. A good friend of mine is a big Chrysler guy, but he's more of a Chrysler carbureted guy.
Well, I can understand that.
And the last thing I want to do is go make a product and then not be able to support it.
Right.
And that was the thing, I kind of alluded to earlier with the whole, be careful what you wish for. We started very small and we worked our way up. I mean, the idea behind it was we had to learn. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that nobody knew. I mean, nobody knew why gold-bladed throttle bodies were failing. Why when I put a gold-bladed throttle body on this engine or that engine in a swap, in certain instances the thing would fail. People didn't know why. How do I get a 4L60 to work with an LS3? There's a lot of tuning related issues and tech support related issues that maybe certain people knew about it, but the majority of the industry didn't know about it. And it took a lot of trying to make things fail from an R&D perspective on our end to finally come up with from a tuning standpoint, what we call canned tunes. We have a whole library of tunes that are going to get you running. We're not going to sit here and tell you we're going to tune that big cam, but we're going to get you to a point where you're going to start it up, and then you bring it to your local tuner. Just like when you're younger and you bought a distributor or a carburetor, they're always fat, and the distributors always had heavy springs in them, so you didn't have 40 degrees of timing and blow the damn thing up.
Right.
This came across my timing light.
Yeah.
I just came across my timing light in the garage the other day. I'm like, oh man, that thing is that's a relic. I need to hang it on the wall. Or give it to Lou.
Yeah, I'll use it. I'll use the hell out of it. Hey, look, man, I can do a compact metering pump on a Caterpillar with no problem, right? I can make it happen. Or an old Rusa Master fuel pump. I can do all the diesel stuff. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. I guess the only way really then for a guy like you guys to get into the Fords and Chryslers is find somebody that's into them so heavy that they would know enough about it to be dangerous and know enough to be willing to do R&D.
Well, I mean, it would almost. It's not even that. It's like I mean, we could get a car. We could definitely build a harness for it. I think the key would be from an engineering and a tech support standpoint, and even from a sales standpoint, is bringing my sales force up to speed on selling it, or bringing my tech support guys up to speed on supporting it.
Right.
And that's what I meant earlier about the finite resources, specifically the human end of it is, I'm not GM. I don't have a building of engineers just to go
just hanging out, picking their noses.
Waiting for stuff to do.
Yeah.
So that's really where it falls. I mean, it's we have projections on what we want, what we're going to be working on over the next several years, but that's one of the reasons why we're not in it. And believe it or not, there's not a lot of people in the Ford Coyote market. Ford is trying to do it themselves, similar to what GM was doing. And the problem you run into is, okay, I just went down to my Ford dealership and I bought a harness and I bought a Coyote. Who do I call with questions?
Yeah.
I'm not calling the dealership isn't going to answer those questions.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in the market. I mean, that's our big thing. I go back to customer service. I mean, when people call, you're getting a phone call. You're getting an answer.
Yeah. And you're not getting a guy in India who doesn't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, it would almost be impossible. I mean, it's like I think I said in the beginning of the show, maybe before you signed off, like I'll get the same question asked 50 different ways, and you got to be able to differentiate or decipher what somebody is trying to say to you, and then get them running. And to do that in the Philippines or India, I think would be very difficult. It's not a cell phone. You know what I mean? It's not Windows.
Yeah. So Cam wants to know, and anyone can answer this, I'm sure. What's the theory behind Ellis accessory brackets, truck versus F body versus Corvette, etc.? Do you have any match the bracket spacing? Tori, you probably know that. You mess with all that.
On the 55 Chevy, and you saw that, I decided to go with the Corvette setup because that brings the accessories closest to the engine block. On the 55 Chevys, they're tall, so you can fit a supercharger and hide one under the hood. But going from front to back, there's not a lot of room there. So the truck bracketry actually bumps it out a lot further. Then if you have a VVT cam and stuff, you're kind of forced to use the longer spacing because there's a bump on the front of the timing cover. So you get rid of the VVT, you go the LS2 type cover, you make room that way, and you slam the accessories up to the engine block. And I'm always a big fan of, thank you, Terry. I'm always a fan of bringing the accessories closest to the block because it frees up room between the front of the motor and the radius. So if you need any part numbers or anything like that for your specific application, just hit me up and I'll give you a list, and
Boom,
we'll take care of it. Okay.
there you go. All right, so now, John, you may have said this, in the first couple minutes before I got on. Do you have the standalone controller for the electronic transmissions?
So we basically use GM Electronics, and it's kind of funny because when GM decided to start, trying to sell, their own harness, I'll call it, they for some reason didn't want to use their own trans controller. So
Really?
Yeah, so what they were doing is you had to use a PCS controller, and that was like another $1,500. What we do is, especially, and again, we're going into the Gen 4 stuff now. Like Gen 3,
Right.
You have a PCM, powertrain control module. All your trans and engine functions are all together in one controller. Once you get into the Gen 4 stuff, so mid 07 newer, so similar to the LS3 that Tori has.
Right.
At that point, you're 58X, you're on a CAN bus system now instead of serial data, and they separated the controller. So the engine controller and the trans controller are separate. So if you run a 4L60 or a 4L80, you're going to run a T42 controller, which is a small little module. If you're running a 6-speed automatic, 6L80, 6L90, the controller is in the transmission.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And then they decided that was a mistake, and now it's back out of the transmission.
It's only living in a really harsh environment. I love that. They, when you talk to people about computers and all this stuff, like in your house, they would say, you got to keep it cool. And then you see, at Brenton, the production company that does my show, the editors are in this ice box because the computers have to be cool. And then the manufacturers, we're going to stick it in the engine bay right on top of the wheel well right here. And
or in the
transport on the
transport.
side of the engine.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Let's put it in the transmission. Yeah, that was but luckily they've gone away from that, and it kind of makes our job easier and the customer's job easier because now the controller's separate. So if they have to send it in to be tuned, it's a lot easier for them to get it out. They just put it in a box. With the 6-speeds, they have to drop the pan, they unbolt it from the valve body, you bag it up, and then you send it in. I mean, it's not a huge ordeal, but you still have to drop it.
Yeah. You're still gonna have to mess with tranny fluid, so you're gonna make a mess.
Yep.
Speedy dry's involved at that point. It ain't easy.
Yeah, it's not. It's not at all. Not at all. And sometimes they'll send it. Sometimes the bag will break in shipment.
Oh yeah.
And we get like a pureed mess, and you have to sit there and get clean it up. I mean, it's
oh my God, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but they've luckily they've pulled it back out, which is a good thing.
See, I heard that they were in the same ECM for a while. I did hear that. I just didn't know because I know some people sell the standalone unit for guys like me who want to use carburetors. So
yeah, and the standalone trans controllers, again, it's kind of outside our model, because again, we're focusing on the guy that wants to use GM Electronics. He wants the engine and the transit function. There's probably 3-4 companies out there that are making standalone, just strictly transmission type stuff.
Right.
So you can put a 4-speed automatic or 6-speed automatic behind a carbureted motor. Yeah.
Now, I was told that GM has I guess it would be a sensor in the fuel line that senses if you've got alcohol in it or in the gas or not, and it will actually change your tune to to accommodate the gas being different.
Yeah, so if you had E85, if you want to run E85.
Right.
So E85 is, that ethanol 85.
Right.
So on the East Coast, unfortunately, I don't know about you guys, but like we can't find it anywhere. It's mostly in the Midwest and out west.
Right. Right. It's in the Corn Belt. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the Gen 3 stuff, there was a sensor. So like back when, like drive-by-wire, Silverados, let's call them like 04 to 07, somewhere in there. That was an option at E85, and they basically used a sensor that was in the fuel line, and when it saw enough alcohol in it, it would change the routine that it was running for the fuel injectors.
Right.
Yeah, that is correct.
Wow. Yeah, see, I had heard that, but I didn't know if it was true. And I figured, you're a guy that would know that.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, if you're racing, I mean, a lot of guys like that.
They use the E85. Yeah.
Yeah, they like that idea because you can push a lot more fuel into your motor.
Right. Right.
What they use it here in Ohio a lot.
Okay. Yeah, in Jersey we don't get any of that good stuff.
Well, the thing is too is you start using that where they have it. Your gas lines have to be right. Alcohol is really corrosive on everything. So you got to have it all dialed in before you go. Just dumping that stuff in the car. Now, for a guy like me, with all the driving I do, it would be worth it when I finally make that jump to put it in there, because I've been driving to Vegas for like the last 10 years for SEMA.
Sure.
So, for me, it would be worth it, because you don't want to get out in the middle of the desert in Arizona and all of a sudden the car starts running like ass. You know? So
you're right.
The guys here in my car club, they even carry testers to test the gas to see exactly what they're serious about their gas.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Well, but your guys are a different animal, because they're racing them and everything else. So they want to make sure they get what they're looking for. I get that. I understand that totally.
Yeah, I mean that's another. It's funny because that's another nice thing about the LS motor is the NOx sensor system. Is the fact that, like, let's say forget the E85, but let's just say, let's say you do get a batch of bad gas. The NOx sensors are going to retard the timing, and especially on the Gen 4 stuff, they went to a 2-wire NOx sensor instead of the 1-wire.
Right.
And it's a basically feedback loop, and it's an excellent system. I mean, it really is one of the things nobody really talks about when it comes to LS motors, but it saves a lot of headache. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the LSs run high compression compared to a small block.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're bumping 10, 11 to 1. So you got to have it, because you can hurt it.
Oh, absolutely.
You start messing around, you can hurt the engine, and then you got a bigger problem. Yeah. So I mean, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. That's I get it. It makes sense. But now, with everything coming out, I mean, God, man, the way you're talking, they're changing it every few years. You guys are busy as hell.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lag usually, because obviously these things have to get into junkyards for the populace to really get a hold of them.
Right.
Most people aren't going down to the dealership and buying
a
brand new LT4. They're getting it out of a wreck. So there is a lag there. When it comes to R&D, right, like I said before, right now we're working on the 8-speed automatic. That's basically, we're putting it through its paces, and then as soon as that's done, we're going right to the 10-speed automatic.
Yeah.
And we're doing those with and without the LT4 blowers. So again, we have at least we have base tunes for people that, so they can, they get it, they can start it up, make sure everything's working correctly, nothing's leaking, and then they can bring it to their tuner.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Let me ask you something. What advice do you have people when they know they want to do an LS swap, but they're not sure how to get there? They're not sure if they want to start with a 5.3, a 6-liter, which 6-liter, cathedral port head motor, rectangular port heads, 24 tooth reluctant, 58 tooth. There's so many different variables that goes into all this. What's your best advice when someone calls you to say, this is what I want to do, I just don't know how to get there, where do I start?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious answer is, what's your budget? Because that's kind of going to drive you what motor and trans you're going to end up using.
Yeah.
If you're one of those tweeners where you're between, you're somewhere in the middle of the road where you could go with maybe a lower cost Gen 4 motor, or, a higher cost Gen 3 motor, I would really like anything else with a hot rod or a muscle car, is where, you're restoring it or doing a project, have a plan for what you want to do with it. Are you going to, is this something you're going to put your wife and kids in, and you're going to go to a car show, or you're going to go on power tour? Because then you have to start thinking about, okay, do I want a 6-speed automatic? Do I want a 4-speed automatic? Do I want a 6-speed manual? What kind of trans do I want? Because if you go with the 6-speed automatic, you're into the Gen 4 stuff. They will not work with the Gen 3s. So
wow.
because they run on a CAN bus instead of on a serial data line, like the Gen 3 stuff did.
Right.
I mean, does everybody need a 4L80? No. Are you going to race the car? Is the car heavy? Or you can put a lot of power down? Yes, you probably need a 4L80, but a 4L60 will suffice for most people. Really, it's the budget is the first thing, and then what's your plan? What do you really want to do? Do you want to autocross it? Is it a pro touring car? Is it a drag car? Is it going to be a single turbo thing that you're going to go beat on at the track? Then a 5.3 is fine. You could blow those things up all day, and they're going to last long enough and they're cheap enough that you could just keep replacing them.
Right.
But those are really the questions you have to ask yourself. And the cost, you could get a Gen 3 5.3, from in the $500 to $1,000 range. Not everybody needs an aluminum block 5.3. Not everybody needs an LS1. Even though everything's called an LS1 or an LS3, they're not all LS1s or LS3s. Everybody likes to say, well, I have an LS1. Well, okay, what's it out of? Well, it's out of it's an 03 Silverado. Okay, well, it's a 5.3. And that's just part of the education of the customer. I mean, there's a lot of disinformation out there and stuff, and it gets confusing. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
So we're there to answer your question. I mean, we have people call all the time. You sit there on the phone with them for 10, 15 minutes, and they don't buy anything, and that's fine, because you're basically trying to educate them so they can go out, they can really look at stuff, and then maybe they come back and they do buy something from you later on.
Yeah.
So there is a wealth of knowledge out there. The message boards are pretty good. I know there's Facebook groups and stuff like that, but even going to a car show and seeing somebody that did an LS swap, that's another good thing. Talk to somebody that's done it. What kind of parts did they use? What were they happy with? What weren't they happy with?
Yeah. Got to do that research, man. You got to do it. And the thing is me personally, like, I call a guy like you and you're giving me this information, I'm going to come back to you, because I'm building a relationship, and you're figuring out, and we're figuring out, I should say, what I'm trying to do. So I don't want to go to someone else and then all of a sudden I got to explain everything all over again. You know what I mean? Because it's just, it doesn't make sense for me to do that. I want to make the transition for the engine swap as smooth as possible, because especially with me, I'm not just doing an engine swap. I'm going to build headers. The car is going to be lowered. I'm doing so much other stuff that I don't need headaches from the engine swap.
and that's that. It's funny you say that, because that's kind of a good segue. Like we sell more than just, we manufacture harnesses. That's our core business. But we sell everything that goes with it. So I mean, we sell accessory drives. We sell fuel tank systems. We sell gauge clusters. We sell all that stuff. And the idea behind it is, you're going to get one-stop shopping at that point. When you have a question on your gauge cluster, which you bought from me, and the harness, I can answer that question. When you have a question on some gauge cluster, maybe you bought at a car show that, you don't know who built it or where it's from, but then you're calling me up wondering why your tachometer isn't working. I'm going to tell you from a wiring standpoint, this is how the wires are hooked up. This is what the signal needs to look like. But other than that, there's not much more I can do with it.
Right.
And, there's value in that. Like you said, like talking to somebody and getting that type of information, that type of insight. There's a lot of value in that. And that's what we offer. We offer a lot of value.
Yeah. And you got to have that, man. Nowadays, I don't care what anybody says. You got to have that. You got to be able to go to somebody that can help you with the package, the entire package, because it's a lot. There's a lot more stuff now than what it used to be 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When you stop and think about it, you know what I mean? When you did an engine swap with a small block or a big block, how how big is my fuel line got to be? It's going to be, it's either going to be 3/8 or half.
Yeah,
You
thank
need
you.
more. You need more than that. Okay, we can do that, but it's 3/8 or a half.
Yeah.
What distributor am I going to run, and how big is the carburetor, and how big is the cam,
Yep.
and then what stall converter do I run? It was
That's
simple.
really it. Yep.
You know what I mean? Now it's like, okay, what else do we need? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I really believe that you got to have someone that can deal with the entire package. It makes it easier for you. I met a guy when I was at a show in I think it was Chicago. It was somewhere, but this guy had this really nice 69 convertible Firebird, and they did the LS swap, did everything in it. They take it to be tuned, and it won't go over like 1,500 RPM, and they can't figure out why. Come to find out that they needed a pedal assembly from a Trailblazer. Somewhere along the line, like they put a throttle body or something from a Trailblazer on this engine, and nobody knew it because it was a crate engine, and they couldn't figure it out. Finally, they figured out what it was.
There's nobody there.
And he said they spent months trying to figure it out, and then finally, they started just, looking at part numbers. The guy said it came down to, we're going to pull these part numbers off, everything that's related to this, and figure out what the hell it is. And it was the gas pedal. They needed a Trailblazer pedal. It's crazy to me.
We did a whole package for a show. Somebody that was on TV, and the car, like legit, they were having issues with the car the day before they were going to be, I guess, filming.
Yeah.
And so we get a phone call. Hey, this thing, we got dead throttle issues, and we're like, okay, did you check this? We gave them a whole list of stuff to check, and they're like, can you just send us another harness? And I said, well, I'm telling you right now, I don't think it's the harness. I said, but I will send you another harness. But do me a favor, have the tuner send me the tune that he put on my computers. So they send me the tune. I already overnighted this harness. They send me the tune, and the guy changed the operating system from the operating system we use for their combination to a Corvette one, because he had a really good tune for a Corvette. Well, guess what? With that transmission,
that tune isn't
going to work. And that's why you have dead throttle issues. So he bricked the computer. So I sent him 2 computers. I overnighted those, and that solved the problem.
Wow.
And this was a very reputable tuner. This was the guy knew his stuff. I mean, the guy really knew his stuff. He just didn't know swaps. And that's one of the biggest hurdles we face in this industry is, I do not claim to be a tuner for power. I bring it to somebody. I've gone to some very good tuners that have tuned my stuff, and they've done an excellent job, because that's not my business. But I'm going to give you the correct operating system. So whatever it is that you put together, whether it came together or it didn't come together, it's going to work. It's not going to shut down it's not going to shut down at this mass air rate and this map rate. It's not going to shut down at wide open throttle. It's not going to shut down when you shift into third gear. None of that. It's going to work. You just need to bring it to a tuner that can tune it. And there's a lot of guys out there that are great tuners, but I don't know I don't know if it's because they're so used to tuning brand new Corvettes and brand new G8s and CTSVs and stuff like that that they have a canned tune, and they just kind of want to get it on the dyno, get a bass in there, do 3 pulls, and then they're done. But there are a lot of guys out there that are just, they'll change the operating system on us, and next the customer's calling up, hey, there's something wrong with the harness. Well, what do you mean? Well, it ran, but then I brought it to the tuner, and now it doesn't run. There's something wrong. The tuner's telling me there's something wrong with the harness.
Yeah.
Because the tuner's standing next to him, and I'm 3,000 miles away. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Let's think logically about this, guys. And then we always say, hey, send us the tune. Let us look at it. And then we look at it, and we'll see, hey, get the tuner on the phone, and we'll try to help them. We're not trying to bash anybody. We're not trying to do any of that stuff. The more we can educate these tuners, the better off we are.
Right.
Because it's just going to make the industry more solid, and people are, it's going to open people up to the ability to go to somebody locally to get their car tuned.
Well, and it makes it easier.
Yeah.
I mean, it realistically, it makes it easier, because now the tuner, he's gonna start looking at things a little bit differently. And not only that, if the tuner knows, if he starts seeing more of your stuff, he's going to be more apt to call you than to tell the customer to call you. Because
Yes,
at that point,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because at that point, he's going to go, okay, I know John's going to send the tune and everything for what you have in the
yeah.
car. So let's see what John says about this. And that is big. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And that's one way we've morphed over the last several years, is the fact that now what we do is, if somebody is at a dyno or they're at a tuner and they're having issues, we just tell the customer, let us talk to your tuner. That way the customer it's not he said, she said, it's lost in translation. It's not the customer in the middle. I mean, let's face it, the customer just wants their stuff to run.
Right.
They want to enjoy it. There's no secrets here. Let's just work together to get it to work. And trust me, if it's something we did, we are going to stand behind it. But in a lot of cases, it is because somebody will change an operating system or something like that, and we send it back. We'll retune it, just pay the shipping, and we'll retune it for free, and then it goes back to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough part.
Yeah, I could see where that could be a pain. I could see that.
Is.
All right, Cam wants to know what a resource to learn the OS and the ECM, not how to tune it, but just the nuts and bolts of the OS itself.
I mean, it's I'll say this, it's a lot of proprietary knowledge, and I don't want to say that, but it's like, we've done a lot of R&D. We've been in business 11 years, and we've broken a lot of computers. We've made stuff fail on purpose, that way it doesn't fail for the customers. My best piece of advice to anybody is, you could start out with it. If you're doing Gen 4 stuff, if it's Gen 3, don't worry about it. You can get any computer you want, as long as it's a 411 red and blue computer if it's drive-by cable, or it's a 242 if it's drive-by wire, green and blue computer. Those operating systems can be changed. On the Gen 4 stuff, what you need to do, my best piece of advice to you is to get the computers that came with whatever you're working on. So if you got an LY6 and you got a 6-speed automatic with it, keep those controllers. You can send them to us, and we can just tune them for you. There is no playing around with operating systems, because you've already done it. You already have what GM originally had. We just have to tune it.
And
However,
what was that cutoff where it went to bus system? What year was that?
So the CAN bus, so Gen 4 started in 06 with the Corvette.
Okay.
So, 05, 06 with the Corvette. There's a mix in there. GM was getting rid of inventory and bringing in new inventory. So there's always a crossover. We like to generally say that Gen 4 starts in 07, mid 07, with the new body style trucks. So if you remember the 99 to 07 was a classic GMT 800s, and then mid 07 they went to the new body style mid 07. So they had those crossovers. That's when we like to say 58X, and that's when they went to the CAN bus system.
Got you. Okay.
And that's where operating systems really matter.
Okay. Cool.
There's a lot of information that you just don't think of ordinarily, but there's so many variables, and it's just so important to get it right. I just want to bring up one more thing about when I spoke to Jeremy on the phone. He asked me what stuff I had because I bought a complete pullout. So I said, no, I don't need a pedal. I got it from the pull. I explained to him it came out of a 2009 Chevy van. Getting back to the pedal, he said, well, we don't support the van pedals. Now, if he didn't tell me that, I wouldn't have known that. And the first time we fired up that car, I would have had nothing but trouble wondering what went wrong. And it would have all been the pedal.
Okay, so out of curiosity, what's wrong with the van pedal?
Well, because it's operating system specific in some cases.
Oh, okay.
So it's not. It has nothing to do with wiring or a connector, because, like I said, we accommodate what everybody has. So if somebody says, "Hey, I want to use this pedal," even a G8 pedal. If somebody says, "Hey, I got a G8 pedal," no problem. We'll put a G8 connector on there. But certain things, it's you kind of just say no. It's not going to work. Got you. And rather than beat yourself over the head, and Tori brings up a great point. If we didn't say that to him, Tori would have wired this thing up. He would have would have triple checked it. He would have made sure everything was right. He would have started up, and he would have had a dead throttle issue. And what's the first thing Tori's going to think? He might think, what did he do wrong?
Right.
When the reality is, it's just we have a component on there that is just not, it's not compatible.
No,
So
John, it would have been the harness.
yeah, you're probably right.
It would have been the harness, John. Come on, get it right. But I would have never known that. I would have never known that. I mean, I know the pedals are pretty specific, I guess I would say. Like the same pedal probably operates 10 or 15 different cars, but I didn't know that it was. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I would have never thought that. Really.
Well, sometimes the connector fits and they're wired differently. I mean, that happened. GM did that all the time. I mean, GM did that on mass airflow sensors. I mean, there's 5 different mass airs you can use on a Gen 4 motor, and there's only 3 different. I think it's 3 different connectors offhand. So there's 5 sensors with 3 connectors. So you can plug.
That is so crazy.
You can plug the connector into the wrong mass air, and then you fry the mass air. And that's another thing. Like people love to Frankenstein. They love. Well, I got the mass air off a van.
Right.
My buddy had this. My buddy had that. And because there's still that mentality of we were all small block guys, like you said earlier. What cam does it have? What carburetor does it have? And what distributor does it have? And let's go tune it. In this case, stuff's going to plug in, but it's not going to work. Or you're going to fry a component, and then it's like, well, hey, what happened?
Man, I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I would have been plugging shit in.
And why doesn't it work when it plugs right in?
It fits.
Man, I had no idea. Well,
and I'm looking at your comments here. It says you and me both. If it fits, it must work, and that's and you want to know? It's funny. It's like I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to make people understand that there's value in the customer service you're going to receive, and that's what we're giving you. We're going to educate you. We're going to make sure, and trust me, if something's wrong, it's going to be we're going to stand behind it. I mean that's something you can put stock in. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm trying to just educate people that just because it plugs in and it fits doesn't mean it is going to work.
Right.
And that's not my rules. That's GM's rules. They created this universe that we have to all live in.
You're just along for the ride like the rest of us. Yeah, that is so crazy. I had no idea it was that.
So real quick, somebody just said it's almost as crazy as the German stuff. And I got a very funny, real quick story about that.
Go ahead.
When we first started, we worked out. So we worked out of the garage, and then I moved, and we ended up taking over my basement to my wife's chagrin. And we're all working in a basement. And I had a customer call up, and he had an Audi. He had I guess it might have been an S4. And he was pulling the motor out, and he was putting LS3 in it. And he wanted to use the Audi throttle body. And I said no. I'm 99% sure there's no way that's going to work. And he goes, can I send you the throttle body? Because I'm 99% sure it will work. Trust me, and you'll understand when I send you the throttle body. So he sends me the throttle body, and sure enough, it was an LS2 throttle body with an Audi symbol cast into it. And I plugged it in, and it worked no problem.
Huh.
So I guess Delco or whoever was making them was, I guess, GM probably developed it, or whoever their supplier was that maybe it was Delphi developed it. They ended up selling it to Audi, and they just changed an insert in the mold, and they die cast it with an Audi symbol, and it plugged right in. I mean, it looked just like an LS2 throttle body.
That's
holy
hysterical.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it really shouldn't surprise. It really shouldn't surprise anybody because they're doing stuff like that now. They're saving money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what it is.
Volume.
They're saving money. Yeah, they're saving money.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Down south, everybody's running foreign cars, European cars with LS motors and stuff. Now, have you came across that yet?
We've done a lot of Porsches. 911s. The 944 is a great one because the 944 is like a great balance car with a terrible engine. I mean, that 4-cylinder was like such garbage. I hate saying that, but like it did not belong in a Porsche. And the fact that it's got that transaxle, you know, the rear mounted trans and stuff, it's got a real good 50-50, you know, weight distribution. That's huge. And then Nissans. There's a company not too far from us that you know, we work a lot with. It's a guy I'm pretty good friends with, and all they do is Nissan swaps. And it's
I knew the Nissans were doing a bunch. Yeah, I knew that.
FX35. I mean, and the cool thing is like they're getting everything to work. You know, they have a CAN bus controller that they sell that, you know, everything is working. So your gauges work, your cruise works, everything works off the GM controller.
Really?
Yeah, and that's so. Without getting into too many details of that, it's, you know, that's something we work with them on.
That is cool.
Yeah, so like they run the entire Nissan, you know, the 350Z, G35s. He did a Frontier. The Frontiers aren't a big market, but like the FX35, he's got an FX35 that makes 700 something horsepower with a supercharged Ellis. It's an L92, but everything works.
Wow,
and that's what it's everything. The Nissan thinks the Nissan controller is still in there.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's neat, man.
I thought that was gonna be a real nightmare.
That swap, but that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, European. I mean, foreign cars. It's popular. I mean, a lot of people can't afford muscle cars anymore. You know, they're too expensive. That's why the trucks are so big right now. Even the OBSs, the 88 to 98 OBS trucks are huge. And the square bodies are huge too.
Oh yeah, I got a few in the yard.
There you go. I mean, yeah, hold on to those.
Believe me.
Forget those small box. Hold on to those those square bodies.
Well, I just scored on an 04 Suburban, driving 4-wheel drive, $800.
Oh wow.
So, what I was gonna do is take the 5.3 out of it. I don't need the 4-wheel drive, so I'll change the output shaft, make it 2-wheel drive. I'll take the rear end out. I'll put 9-inch Ford housing ends on it, convert it to 5-lug. Well, actually, I'll leave it 6-lug because I got wheels from Tory, and I'm gonna put it under my dad's old 73 square body.
There you go.
And I'm just gonna, you know, my logic was, and I'm glad, this is why I'm saying that I'm glad we had you on tonight, was because my whole thing was just get the whole damn truck and just use everything. Just move it over.
And it's funny you bring that up, because when I did my Biscayne, I did my Biscayne after I did that Camaro. So that was my first car that I swapped myself. And it was an LT1 out of a 95 B body. And I got all types of stuff out of that car. And my goal was to try to put it all in there, and it didn't fit, and it wasn't right. And especially the original harness on those B bodies went right over the top of the engine, and then the fuse box was in the engine compartment. I would say at least 70% of the wires that were in that harness didn't need to be there, because what they did is they tied a lot of chassis wiring, just like on the 4th gen F bodies, the 90, you know, the 93s to from 93 to 97 when they had the LT1s. Half of the wiring that's in that engine compartment that's tied into the engine harness is for chassis functions. So it's like trying to pull all that stuff out, and then it's fused with, you know, stuff is fused together, so you got to cut it. You know, it becomes a nightmare, and you don't need it.
Yeah, but see, now talking to you, I know I can get a harness, and I don't have a hodgepodge of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know what I have. I have an 04 Suburban. I can tell you, you know, I can answer all your questions. I'm not going to sit there going, well, I don't know. I got it from a friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. And see, it still makes it easier.
Yeah.
Even though I may not be able to use the wiring harness, who cares? I can tell you exactly what I have. And to me, that's worth $1 million right there, because I'm telling you, the nightmares I hear, wow.
I don't want nightmares, so.
Yeah, you want to enjoy it. I mean, that's why we built these things. You got it. You want uptime and driving time.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, Louis, you saw the wiring in the 55, how nice it looked. I mean, it looks like a factory harness.
It's gorgeous. Yeah,
the quality is beyond reproach.
It's gorgeous. But you know, the thing is you hear guys all the time, you know, talking to people, They put everything in, and then something doesn't work. And now that I know a little bit of how, what things you're saying just don't work, or it's one system, and then in another year they went to another. I'm telling you, a lot of guys don't know that. They don't know it.
And it's funny because I've had people ask me, they're like, well, why don't you integrate it into the chassis harness and sell a chassis harness and the engine harness all together in one?
But you don't need it for an older car.
Well, but some people, they want to, say they want, some people put they'll put an aftermarket chassis harness in their car because the old one is just, maybe it's 40 years old and maybe they want to update it to power windows or what have you. But people are always like, well, why don't you integrate them both together? And I always tell them, you keep them separate because let's say you have a problem with your heater 3 years from now. Do you really want to tear into the engine harness to try to figure out why your heater's not working?
Yeah.
And then what if you had a Gen 3 motor in the car, and then all of a sudden, a few years later, you scored an LS3, and you're like, hey, I want to put an LS3 in it. Are you going to ditch the whole chassis and engine harness just to put a different engine in it? So that's one of the reasons why. I mean, we're an American Auto Wire dealer. I mean, we sell a lot of chassis harnesses, but that's one of the reasons why we do not integrate them. A lot of people always ask, why don't we put them all together? And it's a pretty basic answer. It's nice to keep things modular. It keeps it a little more manageable for the customer. And down the road, if you have issues, it's a lot easier to troubleshoot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that makes total sense. I get it. Oh yeah. That swap's going to happen. It might happen this winter.
Uh-oh.
It might happen this winter. God damn, I might be making the jump sooner than I thought.
Hey, Lou, I'll help you. Let's go.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I like
one
that.
other point to bring up also, what John mentioned about the chassis harness, the engine harness, is you can go from, let's see, if you have 58 tooth reluctant wheel wiring in the car, okay, it'll work on the 58, but it won't work with the 24 though.
Right, I knew that.
So, but you can do it the other way around with the converter box. They have the
Lingenfelter box.
Right.
So if you wanted to go drive-by cable on a Gen 4 engine, which never had drive-by cable, they were all drive-by-wire, you could put a Lingenfelter box in, which is an interface module. So it takes that 58X crank signal, converts it to 24X, which is the Gen 3 stuff, and then it plugs into, we have a harness specifically for that. So it'll plug right into that with the older Gen 3 controller, and you can run drive-by cable.
That's awesome.
Now, Lingenfelter at one point tried to go the other way, and I think it became a nightmare, and they scrapped the project. So really, you can only do it that way. If you ever want to run drive-by cable on a Gen 4 engine, 58X, you need to use a Lingenfelter interface module. And again, we sell those, and we sell a harness that's plug and play for it.
That's cool. That's so cool.
It's all these little intricacies that just make your mind go sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, and someone's got to figure it all out. I mean, so that's why John's doing it. God knows I ain't gonna do it. I'm telling you right fucking now, I ain't gonna do it. My extent with electricity is a blown fuse, and I'm washing my hands of it. I'm calling somebody at that point. If I put a new fuse and it pops, all right, I gotta call a guy because it ain't me.
I'll give you John's number. Don't worry. Look,
I'm not gonna lie. I am an idiot when it comes to electrical, man.
Well,
do you remember when Joe's Trailblazer was having warranty work done when it had the motor trouble? So for me, Trailblazer, right? They want to give him an 07 motor, which is 58 tooth. 06 is 24. So I'm arguing with the guy saying, look, I don't want to run a box. It's an 06 motor. He's telling me the LS2 is all the same. I finally convinced him that wasn't the case. And I got the 2006 motor with the correct 24 tooth reluctant wheel.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because they're all LS2s, but LS2s could be 24X or they could be 58X depending on the year and what they came out of. GM was really good about leaving the same name and totally changing the engine.
Good God, man.
Yeah,
that is
and just so you know, I didn't mention it before, but the harness itself, and Tori could attest to this. It's a 4-wire hookup. So the harness itself, you get the harness as fuse, the fuse relay center is everything's included and pre-wired. And what you do is you drill a 2-inch hole in the firewall and you feed everything from up underneath the dash into the engine compartment. And then there's a grommet seal that slides on the trunk line of the harness, based on, where your engine's positioned, everything like that. And it snaps right into place. So now you have a nice weather tight seal. It looks like a GM grommet seal.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is up underneath the dash, you have your switch power wire, you have a ground, you have a ground at the back of the cylinder head, and then you have constant power, which hooks up to the big lug of your starter. So really the only thing you have to integrate between our harness and your chassis harness just to get it running is the switch power wire, which is going to go to your ignition spot on your fuse box in your, on a Chevelle or Nova would be in your driver's footwell.
Right.
You just plug a spade connector right into that where your stereo would normally go. You plug it right into there, and that's the only place you have to plug anything into inside the car to get it running. Now, we do give you extra wires for, your gauges, your check engine light, your fans, things like that, your torque converter clutch lockup. But to get it running, it's really just a simple 4-wire hookup. Constant power, switch power, and 2 grounds.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
It's amazing how you simplify to that degree, though.
That was part of the goal. Like when we made the first harness. I mean, I have video of the first production harness we made and us running it on an engine on the floor with a column and a gas tank.
That's pretty slick.
It's like what did I say? It was the first one the first production harness we made. It was like the first prototype.
Yeah.
We put it all together and we started it up, and it's pretty. It was 11 years ago. It was pretty funny.
In 11 years, you came a long way, and you solved a lot of problems and answered a lot of questions.
That's the goal. Yeah, and again, like I go back to the people. I don't answer the phone much anymore. I'm stuck doing, the more operation stuff now. But the people we have are unbelievable. I mean, all our salespeople down to the marketing person, our production people, they really give a lot of effort and they do a great job. And we're nowhere without them. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta have someone answering the phone to answer questions because I'm sure you're getting plenty of them. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah,
and you get questions on like a stereo. Somebody you did their swap or whatever. You send you sold them stuff, and then they ask you a question about their stereo or something like that, and you answer it for them.
Yeah,
people are just looking for somebody to talk to. People just want to know that they're getting something good quality, they're getting good value, and you're going to be there when they because they're going to have a question.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. You got to be able to you got to be able to answer. You're right. I agree with that 100%. Especially today where customer service isn't worth a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because customer service has gone down the toilet. So to be able to just call somebody and get an answer, that goes a long way, man.
Well, here's another part of that is call somebody and get the right answer.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's so
thank
cool.
God PSI never got that memo that customer service is a thing of the past, because every time I called and I bombarded Jeremy with a lot of questions and a lot of different scenarios and stuff. I think the secret room 7 scenario came in. I think I was half drunk, or he was when I called anyway, but we still got the right answer anyway. But no, seriously, from beginning to end, you guys did the right thing. And before we fire this thing up, I'll be calling you again, probably with more questions. And I can't wait to hear this thing run. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, you have my cell phone now, so if you have questions on the weekend, you can
Man, you really fucked up, didn't you?
I'm not running. I promise you, I'm calling you.
Hey, I'm on your website looking around, and I see you have a new kit. Is that going to be a builder kit for
the builder's harness? Yeah. So the builder's harness was something we came up with about a little over a year ago. So what it is, it's for more of high end. It's more of like a high end type item where, let's say you're building some sort of show car or SEMA car, or just a car that it's so custom. You want to put stuff all over the place. You want, you want the harness, you want the computers and everything in the back seat, or you want them, in some funky place. You want the coils down low on the chassis. You want
That's
this
me.
there, blah, blah, blah. And our standard harness is not going to accommodate that, because our standard harness is putting things in the factory location, as far as components are concerned. So what we did is we came up with this thing called the builder's harness. And what it is it's a harness in a bag, I call it. So it's a bunch of 15-foot pigtails that are pre-terminated at the sensor end. So if it's a an O2 sensor or TPS, whatever it is, that's where it's terminated. And then you get 15 feet of wire, and every 6 inches or 12 inches, it's printed right on the wire where that wire goes. And what you do is it comes with all those pigtails you need, and then it comes with the computer connectors, the fuse box. It comes with everything. And then you start stringing it however you want to tuck it, however you want to join things. It comes with heat shrink, it comes with braid, it comes with everything you need. And then once you get to the end where you're going to put the computer, you have to terminate the computer end of things. Now the good news is you only need one crimper to terminate all the computer ends, the terminals at the computer end, as opposed to if I terminated the computer end and made you go the other way towards the engine sensors, you might need 5 or 6 different crimpers, which can get very expensive. So it's really for the pro builder, or somebody really taking their time that wants to do a true tuck custom layout. That's who it's for. I mean, it's more expensive than our standard harness that's already put together, and it's more work for the builder. But we deal with a lot of custom shops and high-end builders that they've been asking for a long, they'll buy a standard harness from us and they'll take it apart. Or they might have a full-time wiring guy and they got to go source connectors, they got to source terminals, seals, they got to source all that stuff. This makes it so much easier for them. And the fact that we print on every wire is a home run, because then once you get this mess of 100 and some odd wires sitting there, you know where each one goes, because it's all printed on each one.
That's impressive.
So that's kind of a first to industry. Nobody's really doing that right now, and we're really trying to push it towards the high-end shops and stuff like that. It's really not for the everyday customer. But if you have if there's a customer out there that wants to do it, that has the wherewithal and the patience, we'll sell it to them.
I like to try one.
What does something like that run?
I think right now for the Gen 3 one, we're still in development on the Gen 4 one, just because I haven't finished the prints on it. For the Gen 3 one, I want to say it's $599. I think it's $599.
Yeah.
Again, I'm out of the sales loop. They throw me in the back.
But that's the price, though. That's about the price of a dash harness, for God's sakes, on like a Chevelle or a Camaro.
Yeah.
And look what you're getting. Look what you're controlling. Look what you're accomplishing with it.
Yeah.
That's not a bad price for all that technology in there.
Yeah.
Now, here's another question. I like modern stuff. So in this Cadillac, I'm going to try to put a lot of stuff in it, like iPad, cameras, just stupid stuff.
Sure.
Can somebody that's doing something like that order certain, or would this be that package?
You mean for like cameras and stuff?
Yeah, like I'm gonna do cameras. I might change the controls for the heat and all that stuff to get it to go into the iPad. You know what I mean?
Okay. So there are interfaces out there to get, there's software that you can put. There's an app that you can put on your iPad, and then there's interface modules that will allow you to do that and allow it to communicate with whatever, let's say, AC system you're running. So if you're running Vintage Air, it's going to interface solely with the Vintage Air. It's not going to interface with the engine controller. But let's say for instance, you wanted to get gauges to read on your iPad. Now, you could either go through the OBD2 port and just get all that CAN bus data. It's all on there. In our wiring harness, all those PIDs, all that information is on the CAN bus. So if you're going to do an iPad for gauge cluster, stuff like that, you could plug it right into the OBD2 port, which is part of our harness, and you're going to get all that data on there.
Okay.
You just need an interface module, which I'm pretty sure you can just buy online.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to go like Tesla and just have just the iPad in the dash. Everything else is gone.
It's going to drive itself too, right?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. Jeez.
I'm telling you, this is just, you know what's funny, with all the information that we learned, all the things that we spoke about, there's so much more. We could probably do another show about this. I mean, seriously.
But we need to wait till I do my C10, because this way I can just ask them.
So wait, you'll be in the garage asking the questions.
Yeah, I'll be in the shop. And we'll have to do it right before I burn it down.
Yeah, right.
You let me know when. I'll schedule it. We'll take care of it.
Well, you know, that builder's kit, there was these guys, I was in their shop in Florida, and they were building this really nice 66 Nova, and they ran all the wiring in conduit in the transmission tunnel so they could hide everything.
Yeah.
And they need, you know what I mean? Just so yeah, I could see where that builded kit would work for guys in the higher end shops. I could see that totally.
And you get 15 feet, so you can route it however you're going to do it.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then position stuff wherever you need it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's
I've done a few of them where I put the ECM in the trunk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just because it's cleaner. It looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
wherever
works
you can
out.
hide it.
Yeah. It's cool. It's very cool. I like that.
That's so
I'll have to
different
check 'em
from
out.
the battery in the back. Just getting rid of it, just hiding it, putting it somewhere out of sight.
Yeah.
Out of mind.
Yeah.
Same difference.
Well, and the thing is everybody likes to hide the wires. You know, you don't want all the wires there. That's the thing. That's the rage.
And the way our harness is laid out, not just the fact that you put it, you know, the controllers and everything in the fuse box are under the dash, but even the way the connectors come out, they come out where they need to come out. You know, some people, everything comes out together like a spider, and then you just run it to wherever it needs to be. With ours, everything comes out exactly where it needs to come out, so it does tuck. You know, because let's face it, nobody wants to see the wires. Let's hide them the best we can, and let's show off, you know, a beautiful motor.
Right. Right.
Although some people would argue it's not a beautiful motor, but
Yeah, a lot of people say it's not, but
I think it is.
I think
you
it
can
is.
clean it up. I think it is too.
Yeah, I think it's really nice.
And you know what? You really can't do it with a carbureted motor, but you can make some really nice engine covers for the LS. You know what I mean? I've seen some really sharp ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
people sell,
people sell them, but I mean, I've seen some guys that have made some really nice ones.
well, they
you
sell
know?
coil cover. They sell coil covers too to make it look like a big block Chevy.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah. I've seen it too. But I mean, you know, like Cecil, Hercules Motor Car Company is a landlord for the production company, and Cecil made one for one of his friends. You know, and it's gorgeous. It covers the whole top of the engine, and it's layered, and they painted it to match the car. And I mean, it was just really nice. It was cool. But you know, he has the ability to do that. He's got a big sheet. He's got a big press brake and all that. So he just popped the damn thing out like it was nothing. It was freaking nuts.
You know what I love out there? They actually have a valve cover. It looks like a small block Chevy valve cover. It has a Chevrolet script on it, like on the 57 Chevys.
Yeah, I've seen that one too. Yeah.
How cool is that?
I think we just posted. I think we just posted a picture to our Instagram of a I guess a 68 to 72 C10 with that exact like script Chevrolet valve cover.
I love that.
Yeah. You're starting to see that a lot now. That's that whole retro thing that you see them a lot. And Billet Specialties makes a really nice valve cover. I've used them on a build.
I saw
that. They were really nice. They're nice valve covers. But they're, and the bottom line is because of CNC machines, stuff is getting really nice.
Yeah.
It's because you can program all that stuff in there now.
Yeah, if you can model it, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That's awesome. I've learned a lot tonight, John. Just don't know what to do, man. Just don't know what to do.
Get rid of those small block Chevys. That's what you do.
Not yet. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get rid of them. I'm gonna use them first, man. I'll do a throttle body on it and do what I got to do. I got an LS. I got one in the yard.
Ooh, you need another one?
I'll be sending, I'll be calling you and go, what the hell what is this? And send you a picture with it,
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll help you out.
I mean, I can put it in. I'm not worried about that. Making the mounts easy. I can do all of that. I just gotta, get the rest of it in. That's cool, though.
Yeah,
That's
I'll be
very
picking your
cool.
brain too, man, when I start on this car, because I'm a little stupid and go down a rabbit hole real quick.
Hey guys, why don't you right down Jersey? Come on, let's go. I'm sure John will love that.
Look, man, I ain't going back to Jersey. All right, I can make a phone call. Now, with the older stuff, what do you do? What do you do with the gauges? Is there a way you can make the old style Speedo electric, or do you just have to buy a new gauge? What do you?
So you have a few options. So we're a Dakota dealer, so we sell a lot of Dakota gauges, and I have to say they've come so far over the last several years with their designs.
Yeah,
I mean, I think their quality's always been good, but their designs, like, they've just been knocking everything out of the park.
Yeah, they have been. I agree.
And their stuff is pretty much plug and play with anything we offer.
Okay.
If you are dead set on keeping your mechanical Speedo, we do sell an interface module that will, drive. It's like basically taking the VSS signal and it'll drive your mechanical Speedo.
Oh, wow.
So that is an option. It's, I think they're about $275 for the module. So it's cheaper than getting new gauges, and especially if it's a rare gauge that, maybe you really like the look of it or whatever, and you want to keep it. One of the things to keep in mind is if you're running an electronic automatic, whether it's a 4-speed, we'll stick with the 4-speeds for a second. So if it's a 4-speed automatic, it's got an external VSS. So there's a 2-pin connector, plugs into the side of the trans, and then there's a vehicle speed signal. It's basically it's a reluctor, and as that reluctor spins, there's a magnet that's picking up that signal, and it's pulsing. That pulse is going to the computer, and the computer is, we program it based on your tire size and gear ratio. So the computer is saying, okay, you're doing 50 miles an hour, or you're doing 30 miles an hour. I need to shift. I need to downshift. I need to do this. I need to do that. We get a lot of people who have electronic gauges, and the gauge company tells them, tap into the VSS signal to get it to work. Well, we get a phone call as soon as they do that, and they go, my trans doesn't shift. And what's happening is, in a lot of cases, they'll tap into the VSS wire, and they'll split the signal. The computer is not getting a strong enough signal, and the computer doesn't know how fast the car is going anymore, and now the trans won't shift.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, wow.
One of the things we give people is, in all of our harnesses, part of our under dash wiring section, which is where your tack wire, check engine wire, all that stuff is you get a Speedo output wire. Well, some of the gauge manufacturers, over the last year, they've all gotten very good, but before a year, more than a year ago, they were still trying to operate off 12-volt signals, not 5-volt signals, or both. Because Dakota does both. They'll operate off a 12-volt or a 5-volt signal. Other gauge manufacturers, again, I won't name them, will only run off 12-volt. So the signal we were giving them, that output signal we would give them, wasn't working. So the gauge manufacturer would tell them, oh, well, just tap into the VSS, and then their trans wouldn't shift. When the reality is, if they just went, on my website, there's a schematic right in the FAQs that shows them how to turn that 5-volt signal into a 12-volt signal and get the gauge to work with the wire I gave them.
Wow.
And these are the types of things, like we finally hired a social media person and like a marketing person. So she's been with us about 2 months now, and she's very good, real hard worker. And one of the things, these are the types of things that we're, this is one of the pushes we're going to have is, even though the stuff is sitting up, it's on our website, unless people know about it, it's useless. So one of the things we're trying to do is part of just posting cool pics, we're also going to post stuff that's more educational, where people, quick read type stuff, and try to get that information out there, because it's been out there forever, but people just don't know.
Yeah, well, they don't know where to look.
Yeah, you're right. They don't know where to look for the right answer. Yeah,
they don't know where to look, and it goes back to, they've got some friends that have done swaps, and not saying that they don't know how to do it, but they may not know enough about it. So when they run into all these different things that you've talked about tonight, they're confused, they're lost, and they get lost fast because they don't know. You know, I mean,
and then they call the manufacturer, and the gauge manufacturer doesn't know, and they're just saying, "Oh yeah, just take the VSS signal from here," and then it ends up back with us because the transfer can shift.
Because it's the harness.
Yeah.
See how the harness always comes back into
that should
this,
be
guys.
that should be our
Does
catchphrase.
everybody see how it comes back in? Damn harness. But see, I didn't know that. I had no idea that they use 5 volts on some of the applications to run the speed.
I had no idea.
That's crazy. You would never think that.
Well, now they're in the Gen 5 on the Gen 5 LT motors. The injectors are driven off 5 volts. There's no more 12-volt fused injectors.
Really?
The injectors are driven. The 5 volts is coming from the PC, from the engine control module, and I can only assume it's so they have more control over voltage, over voltage differences and stuff like that. I assume all this stems from fuel economy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they're direct injection now and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a 5 volt injector. And
they can probably insulate it better so you don't get surges.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's more consistent. It's a more conditioned, consistent voltage.
Yeah. I mean, they can monitor it better, but they also can probably protect it better too. Yeah. See, that's the kind of that's There's people getting paid way more money than me to figure that shit out. Fuck, that's just crazy. It's just nuts. No idea.
You gotta be a computer genius or a programmer to get this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm telling you, the guys that are writing this stuff are in rubber rooms. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, you know what happened though? Before we were talking about if it plugs in, it's got to work, right?
Right.
In '86, I met Michael Manning at American Auto Wire when the place was still called M. Parker Auto Works. And my 68 Camaro was bought by my grandfather as a gift for my dad when my dad came home from Vietnam. That car, I tell you, it had electrical problems since day one. The only way I get rid of all electrical problems was by wiring the entire car. The only original harness in there are the air conditioning harnesses and the dome light harness. Everything else was changed. And I had a point to all this, and I'm getting tired. I just kind of went out the window. But okay, rewind the tape. Let's see where I was going with this here. But I'll tell you the story next time.
It's all right. Walk away from the light, Tori. It's all right.
You know what? You need coffee usually. I'm the one that needs a coffee tonight. I don't know what happened. We had a little bit of a role reversal there, but yeah, well, my point was, though, back in the day when plug and play, it really meant plug and play, but now it means it may plug and it may play or it may
yeah, no kidding.
Out, Yeah. Those harnesses, they went together one way.
Yeah.
And that was it. And you knew it was going to work because you got it right. If an extra wide, they didn't line up, then you knew you had a problem. But, yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I thought I knew a fair amount, and there's a lot more to learn.
Well, remember when they designed the car that GM didn't think these were going to get pulled out and thrown in a 68 Chevelle.
Yeah.
So they pokey-oked it enough for it to work in production, but not for necessarily for a swap.
Yeah, that's true. But it's cool though. It's so cool that this stuff is out there, and actually it's a godsend that there's guys like you out there figuring it out. I mean, really, John, because nothing would be happening if it wasn't for guys like you figuring. And it doesn't matter what brand you're messing with. It just matters that there's people out there going, okay, we can figure this out and make it work. That's really good. I like that. I can make sparks all day, but I don't know shit about that. It's not my thing, man. It's not my thing. Like, Vince said he's going to bed and he's going to talk to me about his international harvester tomorrow in his rig. See, I know that. That's my wheelhouse. I can do that.
You know, John, I'm on your website looking around, and they even have the air and heat systems, everything.
They got
You got a lot of
everything.
stuff on the site.
We're a vintage air dealer. It's one-stop shopping. I mean, we're trying to, everybody thinks of us as a wiring harness company because that's our core, but we're a swap company. The idea is that you could buy your motor mounts, your accessory drives, your fuel tanks, your fuel system, essentially everything you need, you could buy from us, and it's one-stop shopping. You have questions, you can call us up, and we're going to be able to answer them.
Well, and you know what? I've said this on the show before. When we did the Stay Bill Camaro, I made the comment, and I've said it a couple of times. If you can get with somebody who sells the bulk of what you need, and you're going to spend a big chunk of money with them, you get the service. But not only that, sometimes you get a break because you're spending so much money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And if it's 20% off, that 20%, it goes a long way towards it, especially when you're doing a build now, because fucking building a car is expensive. Build a hot rod. Even if you're not doing that big high end ride, you do a Dynacorn body, say, you're still going to have 70 to 80 grand in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By the time it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So
it's still expensive.
Huh?
Budget builds are still expensive.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's, so, and then if you can get someone who's going to help you out with the tech stuff that you need, that's even better. Because now everything's got it's every system's interfacing with everything now. It's not like it used to be. It's really not. It's a whole different animal. Yeah.
Yeah.
2,500 for struts, a rack and pinion, and springs. That's what John spent on his fire chicken that he's doing. I mean, that's a chunk of cash, man. Yeah, and I said fire chicken.
We heard it. Lou doubled down.
It is a skinny looking bird.
He said fire turd.
I always, when we would be on Sunrise on Hempstead Turnpike, we'd always pull up alongside him and my friend's Dart, and I'd always go, "Hey man, why is that bird thrown up on the hood of your car?"
You must have been loving the Pontiac community back in the day, huh?
Yeah, we're pretty offensive.
It's good to know that you have all this stuff on your website, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Like
it's
they have
real. Yeah, I'm like going through a whole bunch of stuff. So tell everybody what your website or your social media stuff, because we are live on Facebook.
So the website is psiconversion.com. So it's conversion singular. And then our Instagram is instagram.com/PSI conversion. And Facebook, same thing, facebook.com/PSI conversion.
All right. Sounds good.
Like I said, we try to do one-stop shopping. So we look through the website, we separate it by either by, whatever the component or the group of component is, or we separate it by vehicle type as well. So you can search by your vehicle. So if you got a C10, we have stuff on there for C10s, F bodies, Novas.
Yeah. I don't see Cadillac on here nowhere.
I saw that 64 pallet gas tank. Bam. I'm on board with that.
If you don't see it on it, if you don't see something on there, just give us a call.
All right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Jeremy's in charge of the website, Tori.
No, he's really good. Like you said, I'll be hitting him up tomorrow.
Yeah. What time are they going to kick us off loosely?
I just got an alert in 15 minutes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't get kicked off. That one time we got kicked off was bad enough. Everyone's toes are gone.
Yeah. That was with Sam Madavi.
What happens is here where we go. Jeez. So when you got the tanks you guys are getting, I know with some of the tanks, they're making them so they bolt in the stock location, but they hold a few more gallons. Are you guys getting tanks like that, or can you get them?
These are fuel injected tanks. So So these are baffled. These fit in the stock location. They have the same external dimensions, so they bolt right in. And
Okay,
they're true
that's what I
bolting,
thought. But I just,
yeah, but they're baffled for fuel injection. They have recesses designed into them so we can put internal fuel pumps in them.
right.
They're powder coated, and they come powder coated. They're real quality pieces. You know, it's funny because when I did my Biscayne on those, I guess it's the 58 to 64s.
Mm-hmm.
They have that vertical. The fuel,
Yep.
the sender comes out vertically.
Yeah.
Or horizontally, I guess I should say, instead of like a typical one on top of the tank. It comes out the side of the tank. And I remember I was doing it, and there was no solution out there, and I wanted to put an in-tank pump in, and I did everything I could to get that thing not to leak. I mean, it just, if you filled it all the way up, it was dripping.
Yeah,
and it didn't matter what you did. So it was like a godsend to get a tank that actually was designed to have an in-tank pump in it for that car, because it's such an oddball.
It is. I have two 64s. Believe me, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. That's, and the 63s and the 62s are all a vertical tank like that. And I think it was because of the X-frame. Because when they left the X-frame in 65, it was under the
you
trunk.
got a regular tank in the back.
A regular tank,
Yeah. And it's funny because even on the OBS trucks, so the 88 to 98 Chevy trucks, the gas tank was on the side of the frame.
Saddle tank, yeah.
But if you wanted to go to, like I put a trailer, so I'm doing a 93 right now, single turbo 6-liter truck. It's frame off, powder coated chassis. Everything, it's going to kind of be a showpiece for the company, or one of the showpieces for the company. And I put a triangulated 4-link in the back of it. And once I put that in, I couldn't put the tank there. So I ended up using we sell a Mustang tank to put in the back of any of the OBS or square body trucks, or the 68 to 72s, where those guys don't want that cab tank anymore.
Right.
We sell a Mustang tank that bolts right between the frame rails.
Yep.
All the way in the back of the truck.
That's beautiful.
Yep. Where the spare tire goes. And they make that tank where it's, whatever it is stock, like just for argument's sake, it's 15 gallons. I've seen those where I think they're 25 gallon. They make them bigger now.
Okay.
It's the same tank. It's just deeper. That's why I asked that question. I didn't know if anyone was doing any more of them. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I do know that now. The only thing I don't know about, does that Mustang tank, it uses the same the sending unit, so the gauge works and all that.
We have a GM sender. We have a GM sender for it.
There you go.
0 to 90 ohm sender.
Yeah, there you go. That's the ticket right there. I'll be calling you for one of those.
Okay.
Because I'll put it in the back of my S Dime.
Cam wants to know where you run the filler neck with the Mustang tank.
So you have a few options. I'm going to run mine into the bed.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run into the back. I'm not going to carry anything in the bed of that truck. You have tons of options. If you're a good fabricator, you could probably move the fuel door towards the back and run it over there.
You can also put it behind the tail light.
Yep, you could do that too.
The tail light opens
like in the 50, like the 55 to 57s. A lot of guys do that.
Put it back there, and you could also do. I've seen it in the
plate.
Yeah, you could. Well, I've seen it in the stake pocket.
That's a good idea.
Pockets. I've seen them in there, and they use the boat one. I forgot who sells it, but there's one that's from the boating world, from the marine world. You push it down and you turn it and it pops up, and then it's on a chain and you can take it out. I've seen that one in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that one in there. And you want to use stainless when you run that. You want to use stainless. And if you have to weld it, purge it when you weld it, so you don't get all the slag.
And it's flush to the top of the
the
bottom.
It mounts flush. Yes,
nice.
It does. I've seen that before too. That's pretty cool. And it was somewhere else where I seen it. Oh, I seen a guy who left the sending unit, who left the door, in the stock place, and just made a long filler neck.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it didn't. It was one of those deals. He wanted it to look like it belonged. He didn't want to have anything out of place.
Sure.
Which I get. I get that. But the problem with those is, especially on like my dad's truck, it doesn't have a door. It's just the cap. And once you get so low that it's so low, it's a pain in the ass to put gas in, because now you're like this, putting gas in the damn thing. You might as well just get a bucket and sit on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Get a milk box.
Yeah, get a milk box. Exactly. But yeah, that's I've seen that before. When I do mine, I'm just gonna move it to the back. It's just easier. Move it to the back, have the door back there, and it's just be done with it.
Nice. Well, John, on my 55 Chevy, we're actually going to fill in the gas tank door on the driver's side quarter and put the filler neck behind the driver's side taillight, just like on the 56 and 57.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good idea. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, that's the dealio. That's the dealio, yo.
I like it.
Well, guys, it's coffee time. So I'm gonna mosey. That's what I'm gonna do. And
John, we really appreciate you
pretty
coming
close
on.
to being up. So
yeah, guys,
hey, we appreciate you coming on, man. A lot of knowledge.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
John, it was a blast. It was a blast, really. You know, Terry Wilson sends his best to you. Jeremy, I have to thank him for all of his help. It wasn't just one phone call; it was a few phone calls, and he got everything right. So for that, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate being on. Hopefully,
we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Well,
you're part of the All In's family. You can come on anytime. Just come, call us.
Okay, cool.
Here's the thing, John. At the end of the day, this was put together to be like guys just hanging out talking. Yeah. You know what I mean? And pushing out knowledge, because there's, you got to have somewhere where you can get good information. I mean, I know there's good sources, but to actually have a guy like you who's doing this every day, who runs the company, the ins and outs, that's hard to find. You know what I mean? Where a guy can send you a question. It's done. It's over. You get the answer straight from the horse's mouth. And that's important. Yeah, it truly is. So that's good. All right. So, you guys want to do the out now so we can tell everyone good night, or what? What do you want to
do? Yeah, that's good. Let's do that.
All right, Tori, say good night.
Good night, everybody. John, thank you for coming on the show, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Lewis Lee.
Good night, Tori. Hey, I'd like to thank everybody in the chat room and everybody on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Now, you need to go to planandtraffic.com because I got the store running. We got hats, we got cups, we got shirts. We might even put some underwear on there if you check it out.
Hey, settle down with the underwear thing, man. Settle down. John, go ahead. Say goodnight.
Hey, thank you, everybody, for listening in, and thanks for having me.
And tell us where you're from, John, so the people know.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us the company, John.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, John. It's PSI, psiconversion.com, Brick, New Jersey, Facebook.com/PSI conversion, and Instagram.com/PSI conversion.
That'll work. All right. See, that was so much easier, John. All right. Hey, I'm Lou Santiago, one of the hosts of Plain and Traffic. We'll see you guys next week, Thursday at 9:00 Eastern. And I will be here just like everybody else. And I might even be late like I usually am. John, thanks for coming. Appreciate all the knowledge you dropped on us. And we are out. It's coffee time.
Later.
See ya.